That's Lauren, that's Osama, and our instructional artifact is called the Pilgrim's Pumpkin Pie. And what we wanted to do was teach people how to make pumpkin pie in a simple and appealing manner. How did we come up with making pumpkin pie in the first place? Well, when we were brainstorming ideas in class, Lauren came up with the idea of teaching baked goods, and Osama and I both agreed that we were horrible pastry chefs. And while I'm sure Osama's a lot better than I am, I remarked that one of the things I always get confused at is knowing exactly when to mix this ingredient and that ingredient, or how slowly to stir it during this step of the process. So to present cooking instructions in an accessible way was something that I personally had not found online in my time researching recipes. So we decided to present this in the form of a website where somebody could go watch a video on exactly how the steps look and at what speed they should go. And with attractive, accessible, and simple infographics that would display the recipe and ingredients of our pumpkin pie. So we also added the history section, so users could have something to read while they're waiting for the pie to bake. Our target audience was the Muslim Student Association here at Georgia Tech, which frequently has bake sales on campus. And we figured that a group of students like ourselves who probably are not experienced making pumpkin pies like myself would find this kind of website pretty useful. Again, the key here is accessibility. We wanted to make a website that somebody with zero baking experience could go to and use. This isn't a site for pastry pros, if there is such a thing. So I'll talk briefly about where the organizational responsibilities were. Osama came up with the website itself because he has a gift for that. Everything you see on the website is lovingly made with his hands. Lauren filmed and made the pumpkin pie, so every step you see in that video was crafted by Lauren. She also edited the video to make sure only the most important parts were shown. Holly created the infographics that you see on the website, which include the ingredients and the recipe itself. She made sure that it was accessible and simple, and added a bit of spice, if you will, into the cooking process. And I wrote on the history section. I did a brief research on the history of pumpkin pie, and then I just sat back and watched them do their work. They were pretty great. So with that, I'm going to go into the history. The first form of pumpkin pie that can be called a pumpkin pie was probably made in 1620 when the Wampanoag Indians showed up and helped the Plymouth settlers. What they did was present them with pumpkins, which weren't called pumpkins back then. They were called pumpkins. I think is the French word, but I'm sure I'm wrong there too. And back then, they couldn't have made the crust for the pies because they didn't have the right ovens. So what they did was hollowed out pumpkin shell, poured milk, honey, spices, and pumpkin meat in there, and basically set it on fire, and then they would eat that. The first pumpkin pie was probably present, or not the first one, but a form of pumpkin pie was probably present at the first Thanksgiving in 1621, when the Wampanoag helped the Plymouth settlers prepare for their winter. The first recipe was published for pumpkin pie in 1651 in a French cookbook, actually. The name of the author, who I do not remember and could not pronounce even if I did remember. And the recipe was a little bit different. It's not like what we would see today. It involved boiling the whole pumpkin in milk first, and then proceeding with the process, which is not what we do today. That would require milk. The first published recipe of pumpkin pie as we know it today, in the form that you see here, was in 1796 in an American cookbook by Amelia Scott, I think her name is. And as you can see, it took over 150 years for the pumpkin pie to be introduced and then perfected, or we think perfected, and published. It's also important to note that even before this form of pumpkin pie was published, whatever form it was in was quintessential to the American Thanksgiving tradition. In 1705, in the town of Colchester, Connecticut, Thanksgiving was actually delayed because there were not enough molasses for the town to bake their pumpkin pie. So the fact that an entire celebration was delayed for one dessert, I think demonstrates just how important it is. Little known fun fact, pumpkin pie used to be quite popular in Europe. In England and France, it was all the rage. I mean, just going off the fact that the first recipe was published in France and in French. It's not so popular there anymore. I don't know why. I think it's great. I think everybody else should try it. But for whatever reason, it's been localized here in America. It's a great success. The fact that it's still a staple of Thanksgiving today, I think shows just how enduring this recipe is. There are still contests that go on today to make the biggest or heaviest pumpkin pie. And the record for that was set in 2010, just 6 years ago in Ohio. And the pumpkin pie was 20 feet in diameter and weighed 3,699 pounds. So people really care about this stuff, even though nobody could possibly eat that much pumpkin pie over any Thanksgiving break. Now I'm gonna hand it off to Holly. She's gonna, to Lauren. She's gonna talk about making the pie itself.
Yeah, so my first step was determining what kind of video to use in making the pumpkin pie. So we kind of were debating between just like a cooking show video where we're actually talking, showing all the steps, versus like a Facebook Tasty video. And we ended up deciding to go with the more Facebook Tasty video just because of how it would interact with the rest of the website. So we felt that like since the ingredients and directions were already there, it would be beneficial to just have the video of the pie being made and not somebody telling you again exactly every step to do. So I then was in charge of videoing making the pie, which was actually more difficult than I thought it would be. I thought it would be just like a simple little video and it would be done, but it's definitely a two-person job, especially with like breaking eggs and stuff. You can't really go back and unbreak them if anything happens, so that was interesting and a fun component. And then after that, I was responsible for editing the video together, so using transitions so that people would know moving step to step, and just ensuring that every important part was there and not making it too boring of just like, this is mixing, this is doing this and that. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it off to Holly to talk about.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. So actually, I'll go back to this one. So the idea of our infographics was to convey the message in the most visually appealing way that we could. And so we wanted to create one that it had a full border and other ones that just had little visual components that were nice. This one we chose to be the full border because it's just the ingredients. So it's one of those, it's kind of just a list with check off boxes so that as you're buying each step at the grocery store, your eyes are drawn immediately to each step and you can check them off, so that's really cute that you've gotten it. And then to keep the uniformity between all the infographics, we did the same title font and the same formatting for the text font as well. And then here's the recipe. Because the recipe is the most important part, I would say, of the infographic, we kept it pretty simple. We did have the pumpkin in the corner, but for the most part it's very orderly so that there's not going to be too much and it's not going to be confusing to the reader. So we also made sure that we included specific things as in when we need to change it and what temperatures it needs to be at each step, because the video can't exactly show that, so there needs to be the text component for that. And then also for the history of the pumpkin pie, we thought that we would use an older looking historical pumpkin arrangement. Okay, now on to Osama for his website explanation.
So I'm actually going to start by showing the demo of the website itself. So this is our website here. So it starts off kind of just showing you this video that Lauren crafted of each individual component. Just like she mentioned, it looks a lot like videos you might find of like people cooking on Facebook where they're not going through, you know, it's not like a cooking show, it's just quickly pouring in everything so you can see what's going on. And this runs for 30 seconds or so, going through pretty much all the steps. And then if we go down just below, we have the first infographic that Holly made, which is the infographic about the ingredients. So of course, logically, that's the first step in cooking. You need the ingredients first. So we decided that's probably the best placement for that. Afterwards, of course, the recipe itself. Again, we try to make it very clear. Made sure that the sizing is right, so you can see that each infographic kind of fits perfectly on the page. And then lastly, we added the history of pumpkin pie at the very bottom. Maybe while you're waiting, you want to have something to read, just keep you busy. And then you can see the leaves falling all throughout the page, hopefully. So that was just like a special touch we added just to have some flair, creative design. And just to give you an idea of like how we went about making the website. So I've made websites for a while, and generally a lot of newer websites, sometimes they feature a single product or a single new company, and they kind of follow the same routine where, the first thing that you see on the front page is like this animation video going, and it's kind of at this rate too, where a lot of stuff is going on pretty fast, so you kind of get the gist of what the company or the product is about. And as you go further along, you get to understand what the product is about, or exactly what entails with this company, what it's about. So there's navigation up here as well, so you can just jump to whatever you're looking for, go right back. So definitely a good bit of thought went into this site to make it look pretty professional, kind of like sites you might actually see today. And this is actually posted up online, so you can actually access it if you want. So it's not just on this computer, it's on any computer. But yeah. And that's everything. Any questions?